Welcome to the e-learning portal, and this is still session 10 and the fifth video where we are going to look into details of each of the 11 Incoterms. First, EXW or XWorks, and it must have a named place. XWorks with a named place. 1. XWorks means the seller delivers the goods to buyer when he or she places the goods at the disposal of the buyer at the named place like a factory or warehouse. 2. That named place may be outside the seller's premises, and seller does not need to load any collecting vehicle. In the absence of naming a precise point of delivery, seller must select point that best suits their purpose. 4. It imposes the least obligation to seller and has no obligation to clear goods for export. 5. XWorks is suitable for domestic trade. So if you are looking for international trade, then XWorks may not be in your favor as a buyer. FCA, free carrier, named place of delivery have to be inserted. FCA means the seller delivers goods to the buyer in one of two ways. The first way is where the named place is the seller's premises. When goods are loaded on means of transport arranged by the buyer, the seller delivers. 2. When the named place is another place, seller delivers when goods having been loaded on seller's means of transport or reached the named place ready for unloading from seller's means of transport or at the disposal of the carrier or of another person nominated by buyer at the named place of delivery. Or procure goods so delivered. Seller is required to clear goods for export for FCA where applicable. Seller may instruct carrier to issue bill of lading with on-board notation if agreed with buyer. See, that is one of the significant changes between 2010 and 2020. It's appropriate for buyer who intends to export goods where export licenses are difficult to obtain instead of buying on XWorks. Without precise point of delivery, seller has right to select the point that suits their purpose in FCA. CPT, carriage paid to, and it must have named place of destination. This means seller delivers goods or transfers the risk to the buyer by 1. Handing over goods to the carrier contracted for carriage by the seller, or by procuring the goods so delivered. The seller may do so by handing over physical possession in the manner at the place appropriate to the means of transport used for the carriage. Seller under CPT incurs costs under contract of carriage related to loading at the named destination. Seller must also clear goods for export where applicable. If their precise point of delivery is not stated, the default position is the first carrier by seller's choice. CIP, carriage and insurance paid to, and it must have a named place of destination. CIP means seller delivers goods and transfer risk to the buyer by handing over to the carrier contracted for carriage of goods by seller, or by procuring goods so delivered. Seller may do so by giving the physical possession of goods in the manner appropriate to the means of transport. Seller must contract for insurance cover against the buyer's loss risk of loss or damage at least to the point of destination. Seller has to clear goods for export, and seller incurs under contract of carriage related unloading costs at the named destination. DAP, delivered at place, and that place should be named, and that place should be the destination. DAP means seller delivers the goods and transfer risk to buyer when the goods are placed at the disposal of the buyer on the arriving means of transport, contracted or arranged by seller, ready for unloading at the named place of destination within agreed period or date, or procuring goods so delivered. Under DAP, seller clears goods for export and comply with security-related requirements. In fact, if goods are held up at inland terminal or port of destination for import or export clearance, buyer bears no risk of loss or damage to goods. DPU, delivered at place unloaded, and it must have a named place of delivery. DPU means seller delivers goods to buyer and transfer the risk when goods are unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named place of destination at the agreed point within the place and placed at the disposal of the buyer, or procuring goods so delivered. Seller under DUP must ensure it is in position to organize unloading at the named place. Seller must clear goods for export where applicable and carry out security-related requirements. If buyer fails to clear for import at destination port, buyer bears the risk of loss and damage under DPU. DDP, delivered duty paid, and it must have a named place of destination. DDP means seller delivers the goods to the buyer when the goods are placed at the disposal of the buyer, cleared for export and also import. Goods should be ready for unloading on the arriving means of transport at the named place and point agreed within the place, or procure goods so delivered. Here, seller must clear goods for export and import, and seller must pay duties, import duties, pay taxes, and pay for custom formalities. Seller must provide documents that enables buyer to take over goods. FAS, free alongside ship, and it must have a named port of shipment. FAS means seller delivers goods to the buyer when the goods are placed alongside a ship or a key or barge nominated by the buyer at the named place of shipment on the agreed date or within the period in the manner customary to port, or seller procures goods already as delivered. Seller has responsibility to clear goods for export where applicable, but has no obligation to clear for import. Buyer makes the contract of carriage and arranges for insurance cover for loss or damage. Seller must carry out and pay for export license, security clearance for export, pre-shipment and official authorizations if applicable. FAS, free alongside ship, named port of shipment, should be noted. FAS means seller delivers goods to the buyer when the goods are placed alongside the ship or a key or a barge nominated at the named place of shipment on the agreed date or within the period in the manner customary to the port.